All right,
Let me
everyone.
just.
Here we go. We're going to start. We are on a podcast with Pastor Andrew King and Nakila and I from Wise Lily Rose. And we're going to discuss today the subject of boundaries. So it's going to be very interesting. Akila and I had a pre-conversation yesterday about it. So we're going to bring in some of the things that we spoke about. And then we're going to get some wisdom from you, Andrew, Pastor
Yes.
King, and see what you think about this whole this subject. Okay.
I am ready to learn.
Oh.
You know, you're ready to share. You're not ready to learn. Okay.
Wisdom means you're going to share with me.
That's true. So we're sharing with you and you're
Oh, that's
sharing with
lovely.
us. All right.
Okay.
Let me throw actually, Keela, you're the first one. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead, Keela.
So a little background to how we were talking about this conversation is we said like we come from, did we say closed communities?
Open
sis?
communities. Open communities.
Open,
Yeah.
very open. And there are some communities that are more closed. So we said the open communities are communities who have a lack of boundaries, and the more closed communities are the ones who can say no. Don't come to my house. I come from Cape Town, little bit background, beautiful Muslim community, and I mean, I'm sure every family is different, but with my family, we're so open and welcoming, and nobody says no. Someone's knocking on your door at 9 o'clock, the tea's on the table. That's one of our proud things. We're so generous and open, but that can also translate into a lack of boundaries. So yeah, our first question is, that's a bit of a background. How are boundaries good for relationships and communities?
Oh, well, thank you, Akila. That's so wonderful. Boundaries. I was thinking about this question. Susan and I, dialogue a little bit. There's two kinds of boundaries. I'll use this example. A fence. There's a fence, and some fences that are made out of iron, metal, but there are a lot of spots in them, so you can see right through the fence. But yet you feel safe because it creates a boundary or a respectable boundary between you and your neighbor. You can stand at the fence to your neighbor, you can wave to them, "Hi, how are you? I'm fine." And what the boundary does is it marks out the area that's mine and that's yours. Now there are other boundaries that are, the other fences that are solid or concrete. And those boundaries are also making a statement. Don't come here, whether you're invited or not. Based on personality, that's one thing. Secondly, culturally, it's interesting because, as you suggest, an open boundary. Society has developed the boundaries for a reason. Number one, respect. Number two, safety.
Yeah.
Within society such as yours, it's a much more rural society as opposed to agrarian, where farmers are there. You knew your neighbor.
Yeah.
And the difference was your neighbor was also responsible for you. You just go over, hey, can I get this? And your neighbor, yeah, sure, come over.
Right.
Well, we're going to go to a more urban environment. And the problem with an open environment, if you're talking about Cape Town, and the urban environment, here's the truth. People don't know each other.
True.
They come from different parts of the world, the different cultures that have come together. I have the joy of being in Canada right now. Okay. And we are a mosaic. That's it. South of our border, our brothers and sisters, they are called the melting pot.
Right.
But in this urban environment where a lot of people come from all over the world, I've never met you before. It's a different culture. There's different religions. There's different ways we say things. Boundaries go up really quick.
Yes.
I don't know who those people are. What do you know about them? I don't know anything about them. So we put boundaries in place to protect ourselves because we don't know each other. So when you're talking about boundaries, you're talking also about a family setting. Right. Where in a family setting where you and I, generation, when you grew up, your cousins were there, your uncles were there, your aunts were there, and everybody came by. It's not that you were easy to know. You just knew the people.
Right.
And you knew the people, you trusted them. And trust comes with respect. So they come over, they may come to your house. Here's the difference. If I come to your house and knock the door, that's because I'm saying, hey, I'm here. I feel safe enough to come in, announce myself. Oh, yeah, so-and-so, I just saw you come in. Now, if you're in an environment where you don't know anyone, you've just arrived there, you're not going to be as free to come and knock on my door. You don't know anything about me. You don't know what's going to happen. So that is the reason why you see some boundaries are a little bit more solid. And the boundaries are more accessibility, where it's community and space in the area of relationships. Relationships are built based on where we begin. We all begin in a relationship.
Yeah.
It starts with mom and dad, children. That's our first relationship. Then that relationship grows out, extended family. Then we have aunts and uncles and cousins. The next, and you go from that, second, third, fourth cousins, and you go out, and you're all in that area together, and you all know each other. You have a relationship by blood, you have a relationship by marriage. So there's some sort of a relationship. But if I've never met you before, if I have no relationship with you, I don't know who you are, I just see you down the street, I'm a little bit apprehensive. Boundaries are based on the fact of how well I know you. And the first part of a boundary is to protect me from you. Once I get to know you, though, that's a different thing. You know your friends, you have a different boundaries.
Yes.
Right.
Then you do
Absolutely.
strangers. Boundaries are important for building respect, but for protection as well. So within this urban society, yes, you cannot open my door. If you do not call first, I'm not going to let you in. Unfortunately, safety is an issue.
Yeah.
And if I don't know you and I let you in, something happens, then I'm at fault. So I use those boundaries for protection.
That's a good point.
The other kind of boundaries that we talk about now, as we're talking about family now, you start to go out from the family. So now you're at home, you go to school, you build boundaries. At home, you go to work, you build boundaries. You're at home, you go to the store, you build boundaries. Why? These are people you know. And as you interact with more people, guess what? You get bigger and bigger and bigger. And your boundary starts to grow because, number one, you develop different relationships. You learn more and you do more things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that.
I hope that helps.
Pastor King.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean,
yeah.
I think two things that stood out to me as you were talking is, number one, like boundaries is about trust. It's
Safety
like
and trust.
The safety and trust. So that's a really good point, because you were saying, if I know you, then I have more porous boundaries. If I don't know you, my boundaries are going to be more rigid, which is totally understandable.
And it's interesting because it segues into the next question. So I think you already answered it, because we were saying, what do healthy boundaries look like? But that's exactly what you said. So I like the analogy of the fence. I like the fence, as you said, you have a fence, porous, so you can see through it. That's safety. I can, there's a barrier, but I can see you, right? But then, as I said, when I don't know you, then it's a solid boundary because there's safety. And I think that's a really important point, because safety is something that people don't think about when they see boundaries.
Yes.
They don't think about the concept of safety. They think about, you're being evasive, you're being this. No, I'm protecting myself from you, protecting myself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Safety,
right? So I think you answered that question really well. When we talk about healthy boundaries, what is considered a healthy boundary? And if you look at the healthy boundary as a healthy boundary based on my safety, my personal protection, right? Okay, all right, I don't have to ask you the question, you already answered it.
Okay, so we can move on to the next issue, which is a little bit of background, I guess, before I ask this question is, a lot of people, okay, I'm going to speak for just myself. I can't talk for anyone else. But because of growing up in a culture that's so generous and loving and open, and see this as a proud, or like as a pride thing, I think I grew up wanting to please people. Yeah. So I could say I'm a recovering people pleaser. Yeah. And so I would have very porous boundaries, but it's almost as though in my mind I was saying no, but then I was saying yes. So there was a strong no, I don't want to do this, I'm not comfortable. But because of my background and this tendency to want to please and make everybody happy, I would then say, yes, I can do that for you, or yes. And this has been something that has been a challenge for me, and I've been practicing it in my own way, because Susan, I call it now loving boundaries. How to say no for like my sake, so that I don't feel any resentment and I'm honoring my no. And also it's loving for the other person, because you don't want to be inauthentic to yourself. And when you're being inauthentic, you can grow some kind of resentment.
Right.
But something I really struggle with, Pastor King, is feeling like that's selfish. And so the question is, how can I set boundaries without that guilt or without that feeling of like, oh, I'm becoming really selfish now because I'm getting good at saying no. It's really becoming easy for me. But then I feel like, oh, I should be a little bit more generous. I should be a little bit more giving.
The guilt factor. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. It's an important question. It's also based on personality and the way we've grown up. So in some communities, as you pointed out, you have to help. You have to do. You have to flexible and inflexible families. So within a flexible family, it's like, hey, everybody come in, man, we can do all kinds of things. And in an inflexible family, it's like, oh no, nobody comes here. So those are also boundary conditions that are set as you grow up, and they condition you to do things. Right. And when you go out into the society now, it's interesting, we had this talk about personality, extroverts and introverts.
Right. Yeah.
We're talking about the fact that you go out there, and even with an introvert and extrovert, in the sense of how much you like to go, how much your personality is generated and regenerated from the point of being with people.
Right.
If you're a people pleaser, and I'm a recovering people pleaser too, so I understand. It is okay to say no, and it's okay to say yes. What are you talking about? You're confused. No, I'm not confused. Because what I'm saying is, it is based on what your needs are.
Right.
If you can do something and you say, hey, I'd love to help you. I'm a yes person. If I can help you, I'll say yes. But here's the problem, Kilo. When you've reached your limit, when you're at the point where you can't do any more, and you're still saying yes to your own detriment, there's a problem.
Right.
Now you haven't created safe boundaries for yourself. It may be a drain on your mental resources. It may be a drain on your physical resources. It may be a drain on your financial resources.
Right.
So now all of a sudden your personality is pushing you to places where, even though you feel uncomfortable because of the way you're being trained up, grown up in that foundation, you say, oh, I say yes, why? Right. Wow. I don't, and I think, Susie, you said it. Then there's a guilt factor.
Yeah, exactly.
Once I get to the guilt factor, then it's like pushing a button. Beep, 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 beep. You know you're not supposed to be doing this, but because you feel guilty, you're going to do it.
Right.
You didn't say you wanted to do it because it was the right thing to do. You didn't say do it because the person needed it. You're doing it because you're guilt.
Right.
And unfortunately, you know what's the most amazing thing? Check this out. If you ask the person, I can't do it, they wouldn't be that offended.
Right.
That's it.
Exactly.
They say, I understand. But the question for us as people please is, why don't we understand? Why don't we understand that we need to put ourselves forward? Now, the other opposite is also true. There's some people who say no to everything. No, I'm not doing it. Because they don't want to be involved. And that's never the good side either. There has to be a happy medium.
Good.
And the happy medium is defined by you and the boundaries that you placed on it. So I'm going to use a family setting. I'm blessed with a family. My three beautiful babies, my wife. So I use
Olivia, and Natasha. Yeah. She met Olivia.
Yeah, and my grandbabies and our son-in-law, and I use that as my gauge.
Yes.
So those are my boundaries. So I have an internal boundary, which is my family. First of all, once they need it, they go first. Can't step on that. Then there's a work boundary. No, take away my work. And then you start to create those own limitations for yourself. Well, I can't, because you have time, you have schedules. You have to sleep. You only, unless you're independently wealthy, you have financial resources.
Absolutely.
Right.
You have mental resources in the sense that, well, I got to sleep. I've got to take time to come down for myself so that you're healthy enough to do the next thing. Anytime you push on any one of those boundaries and you ding, 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 the guilt resource comes out, then you know I'm in trouble. I'm not living within a healthy environment. Here's the other thing, and I said it to, as you know, I'm a pastor, we preach on Sabbath, so today was at church. I said, when you hear the voice in your head telling you you've gone too far, listen to it.
Right. Yes.
the honest truth is something in our head says, is this a good idea or not? And we push past that.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, listen to the voice in your head. It's telling you, hold off for a minute. And tell that person, you know, I wish I really could. Maybe next time, not right now at this present time. Or can't do it. And say to the person, no, I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to throw a point in, and as again, you're really good at as I said, answering the questions without answering the questions. But we'll just kind of tie up a little at the last question. But one thing I wanted to say is that in our conversation yesterday, Keela and I were talking about the boundaries, and you said this, Andrew, very eloquently, that someone will, when you say no to someone that you can't do something, that person who loves and understands you should be okay with the no. Now, the flip side is if that person is not okay, then that's an evaluation of that relationship. What do you really, are you like taking advantage of me? Are you a person? Because if you can't understand that I'm saying no, and I have the right and the ability to say no, and you don't respect that, that's something to look into. And that's sort of a measurement or meter of the relationship, or a litmus test, if I can say that. Because that's something to think about. As you said, if you care about that person, you understand that person, they have the right to say no. They have a right to refuse. There's nothing wrong with that. And I, as a person who cares and understands them, respects that and says, okay, they said no. Not like, oh, they said no, now I'm going to cut them off. They're going to cut you off. That means it's good. Thank you. You've done me a favor then.
It's a loving no.
Yeah,
I think it's how we hear the no. Sometimes people hear no and they think, whoa, you've set this really inflexible, non-porous, solid boundary between us, and now I can never ask you again. But I think so once you start setting boundaries, you also have to start accepting other people's boundaries more lovingly, right?
Yes.
So then when someone is saying no, sometimes your ego can get bruised, like, how dare this person say no to me, right? But then the way that I see a no is, wow, this person is comfortable enough and safe enough with me to have loving boundaries. It's not like they just this yes person, which I know can sometimes just diminish you internally and make you feel unsafe in the relationship. Right. Saying no is powerful. Saying no can make you feel more trust and make you build more trust with someone, because you have that right to say, I'm not comfortable. You have that right to feel authentic. Yes. And that person is still accepting you with your yeses and your nos.
For who you are.
Yeah. So it's really beautiful once we start establishing boundaries. And also the biggest thing is accepting the boundaries that other people put up.
Exactly. So let me ask you, Pastor King, let me ask you this as a tie-up question. So now we have all these, bits and pieces together. So if we want to tie this up into a nice little package, what are for example, I'm starting from ground zero. I don't have any boundaries. I'm going to use this as an example. And I'm speaking to you, or we're speaking in this group and people are listening. How do I start to set up boundaries? What are the steps? Like, what is like a step 1, step 2, step 3, if we could put it in that kind of, kind of list?
I think the first thing before we start setting up boundaries is developing relationships.
Okay.
So I can't ask you if I don't have a relationship with you. The first assumption, the fact that you're asking for something, means that you and I have a relationship. Now there are close relationships, there are semi-close, and then there are professional relationships. So you got to define what relationship you have first before you define what kind of boundary we're going to set up. In a close-knit family, we have a very tight-knit family. You know me, I'm either related to you by blood or by marriage. Your boundaries are a little bit more fluid. You know what I'm saying? I might pick up my phone, I might come by your house, I might call you. If it's someone you go to work with, a professional relationship, I may know about you, but not know you. There's things I can't ask because I don't know you. But we may have a professional relationship, might be, and then that relationship is built on time. The longer I'm there, the longer I'm with you, but, then we have a different kind of relationship. There are relationships that are people who you don't know, and this is the hardest ask. Have you ever met someone who you don't know, you know nothing about them, and you're going to ask them something.
Mm.
And you base that on how the person looks, how they approach you. When you ask the question, what's their facial response? What's their body response to you? And I can give you an example. I live in the city. It's a mosaic. So I'll be downtown sometimes in Toronto, in the city of our center. And I'll be walking downtown. And I'll be walking, you know, kid. I'm walking, minding my business, not bothering anybody. Someone will come up to me, excuse me, sir. Can you help me? So the first thing I think of, guess this, why are you asking me? You don't know me from anybody on the street, but they come up to me because either there's something about me or the way I look, or the way I'm dressed, or my energy that they say, if I ask this person, they might help me.
Yeah.
Or
Yes,
something
that's
about
beautiful.
that draws them to you. So that's a very far-reaching boundary. And you know what? That's the hardest ask.
Yeah.
I don't have a relationship with you, but I'm going to ask.
Mm.
They've got they got rid of all of their inhibitions, and they're ready now. I'm going to try this. This person might say no. I also recognize that because I don't want to crush them. You just said it, kid. I don't want to crush that person by saying no. I want to let them down gently. What is it? So of course they'll be asking the question. And if it's something reasonable and I'm able to do it, even for that stranger, I might say, yes. Might be a simple question. Can you point me in the right direction? Help. I need this. Sure. It's still an ask.
Yes.
When it comes to closer family members, they know your personality. So it's not only what they ask, they know what to ask for.
Right. Yeah.
They know you for a while. I can ask a kid for this, like, oh, she'll always give it to me. That's not a problem. Far-reaching ask. A professional relationship, there are certain boundaries. There are things that you will never dare ask for because it's a professional relationship.
Right.
But there are other things you may ask for. It might be, hey, could I borrow $5? Or, you know, do you mind if, you know, you and I work on this thing, or can you walk me home, or do you mind traveling with me? So there are different levels of asking, and those relationships and boundaries are based on how intimate those relationships are.
Intimacy, yeah.
The most intimate of all relationships is the husband and wife. My wife and I, we do a lot of marriage counseling, and I always love this question. I always tell couples this. Listen,
I love it.
If you love someone and they ask you something that's reasonable, why would you not say yes?
Oh, yes.
If you love someone and they ask you something that's reasonable, why would you not say yes? And the person looks at me, yeah, you're right, because it's based on love.
Absolutely.
Now, here's the most beautiful relationship of all: parents and children.
Yeah.
Oh.
Children have no respect for parents. Children ask out of love because they know you love them and you will not say no.
Right.
Trust.
And their ask is their trust and their love is so beautiful. Can I have? And they don't expect to know. They don't know whether you have it. They don't know how you're going to get it. They don't know where it is. But because you love them, they know you'll make it happen.
Right.
Can you remember growing up with your mom and dad?
Yes.
You never thought about where the food came from.
True.
You just said, can I have dinner?
Yeah.
Your brain didn't go down the process of them going to work, buying the food, putting it in the fridge or the cupboard, cooking the food, preparing it, and getting it for you. Your brain just said, that's mommy. I need some food. And if I ask for food, mommy and daddy will get me food. What a beautiful relationship children have, eh? The trusting relationship that they have. And that's what we have with our Heavenly Father.
Yes.
That love relationship is so strong that when we ask of God, because we're in that relationship, and you know I'm a pastor, I gotta go there. So
gotta go. Let's go. Let's go.
Please go there.
Because when you're connected with God like that, we are His children, and we ask, He gives it to us, and we have no fear of asking. We have no fear. So that's the important point of it. What kind of relationship defines the ask?
Oh, I like that.
Defines the ask.
Kind of relationship.
Even those relationships, the only time those relationships are questionable is when abuses happen or misuse within the relationship. And even though they still may be intimate, there are boundaries that are set up because of past experiences. Past experiences will define how we interact with each other in the future. Work relationship and professional relationships and community relationships. Now, I have community relationships with my neighbors. Susie would know some of those neighbors.
Yeah. For sure.
We're really cool. We're cool. But it's being built over time. So like you said, Keela,
Yes.
I can knock on their door and say, hey, yo, can I borrow this? Yeah, man, come on over. They come in my house and say, hey, can I get this? I need that, because we built a relationship over time. And that's where that trust relationship comes through. But they have good boundaries. They'll knock my door. They won't just come in my house.
Right. There is respect. There's respect. There's
a great deal of respect for your privacy.
So I like that. So the kind of relationship defines the boundaries, the setting of the boundaries. But yeah, that's good. Wow. Okay. There's a lot of stuff.
Wisdom.
Too much wisdom. Yeah, I'm telling you. Really, it's really a lot of stuff. We can go on. I always say this. I know Akila is always like saying this to me, but we can go on for hours and chit chat. But we'll roll it up and put it into a nice box. But thank you so much for your, as you said, your wisdom, the gems, and the time. Yes. Yeah, especially the time. Thank you so much for that, because it's helped us to, and help the other people who are going to see the podcast, to talk about boundaries and to realize, it's okay. It's okay to set up boundaries, how to set up boundaries, where to start, and put them into effect, if that makes sense, right? All right.
Thank you so much, Pastor
yes,
King.
Thank you.
It's been such a privilege.
No, we're going to keep talking, but I'm going to stop recording.
Yeah.
That's it? Well, I thought we were going to keep going for hours and hours and hours.